Hello, welcome to another episode of Executive Suite. I'm your host, Thomas Braun, and today I have with me Sam Jenkins, who's the managing partner of Punchcard Systems. And Punchcard Systems is a software development agency. And Sam, can you please give us an overview of Punchcard?
Yeah, you bet. So Punchcard is a digital transformation studio. We're based here in Canada. We've got staff who stretch from Victoria all the way to Kitchener-Waterloo. We're about 50 people full-time here in Canada. And we build custom products, apps, automation systems across many industries, from bird conservation and environmental research to law enforcement to automotive insurance. But we've always been focused on building digital experiences for employees, for customers, for partners and citizens. I'm really proud of the work that we do. We do get to work with really interesting clients, both here in Canada, but in the US as well. We're made up of a team of software developers, product managers, user experience designers, project managers who work with really impactful clients. All over the place, like I mentioned. And our goal is really to help improve how teams work, really by building everyday tools that help move what we call a metric that matters, or really advance the mission or goals of the organization using technology. Um, it's been a wild ride for us over these. We're just about to celebrate our 10th anniversary. It was just announced that we're on the Globe and Mail top growing companies list for the third year in a row. And like I mentioned, we're doing really exciting work in a lot of different industries. And I think it's showing that here in Canada, we've got so much opportunity, and a lot of that opportunity is locked up in innovation, in technology, and certainly in the nature of AI. So happy to be on the show here today, and really looking forward to our conversation.
Well, thank you for being here. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about specifically, which is of course, a big trending issue, and apparently it's going to change our lives and everything, is artificial intelligence. And one of the things that people say sometimes that you hear about is how this is going to really impact the computer programming um, industry. Can you tell me, is it true that AI might cause mass layoffs and computers are just going to program themselves? How is that going to turn out?
I mean, I I can't predict the future, of course. None of us can. But there's still going to be humans involved in technology, right? That's going to be an absolute. But I do think there's going to be a reshifting of the way we work, and this isn't just limited to technology or software development. This is across all different types of industries. We're already seeing organizations hypothesize that AI is going to change how their workforce is going to be interacting with each other, with our customers, out in the marketplace in general. Now we're seeing that in our organization already. We use AI tools in almost every workload in how we're working. We are building more code using AI than ever before. In fact, estimates for 2024 were that close to 250 million lines of code were written by AI. And in 2025, the estimate is that that's going to double, if not triple. So we know that AI tools are being used quite heavily in software development, but there's still people who are validating, who are verifying, who are ensuring that what we're building is the right thing for the customers that we're out there serving. To folks that are listening, I would say, of course, AI is going to affect absolutely everything. We know it will, but so did the internet, so did mobility, so did all other forms of computing throughout the course of history. Um, Change is you know I guess un we can't change. It's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be. We shouldn't be expecting mass pandemonium. Nobody working in technology. But for folks who are working in tech, there's definitely reskilling. There's definitely reshaping of the roles that we were used to over the past 5, 10, and 25 years.
Do you think that there's an analogy that can be drawn between AI and some of the new tools that are available and the advent of microcomputers with word processing and spreadsheets? Because I'm old enough to remember this, although I was quite young at the time. But at the time when word processing came out, people were saying, "Oh, well, there go all the secretarial jobs. Nobody's ever going to need a secretary again. Um, and then, of course, you've got the spreadsheet, and some people might say, "Well, that spreadsheet with with a spreadsheet and a computer, I can do the work of 10 accountants." Um, and there hasn't been a disappearance of paper. In fact, I can tell you in the legal profession, what's happened is that a prospectus has gone from being 12 pages long, typed on an IBM Selectric typewriter, to being 140 pages long, because now lawyers can use all this boilerplate and just cut and paste, and they can put in every single risk factor to their heart's desire. You can have 15 pages of risk factors, all the things that might go wrong, and um, really long contracts. Contracts used to be shorter, now they're much longer. And administrative assistants, according to the EDSC, which is a federal government department in Calgary, they're getting $85,000 a year. It's actually pretty good being a secretary right now if you have those skills. They haven't disappeared, but is AI different? Because the people who are promoting it, the billionaires who own all this stuff and are promoting it, they keep telling us, "Oh, this is completely different. This is going to really change the world." Is it that much different, or is it like kind of word perfect and spreadsheets?
I think it is an accurate analogy to be looking at throughout the course of the past 100 years, and certainly before that as well. But just looking at the past 100 years and looking at technology and innovation, there has always been these moments in time where there's been rapid change due to the introduction of a new tech. Whether or not we're talking about steam engines, typewriters, computing processing, the internet, mobility, cloud, and into AI. I mean, all of these moments in time have created a little bit of disruption, or perhaps a lot of disruption, and a little bit of discomfort in terms of what our roles of the future are going to be. Now, do I think that the way we work is going to be the same in 10 years? Absolutely not. Do I think that there's going to be people who are going to have to retrain and adopt new skills? Absolutely. Using the administrative lens, learning how to type has changed pretty significantly over these past decades, and now we have more tools at our disposal. And so I think there's going to be a higher expectation on people that we continue to retrain, reskill, and upskill based on the tools that are available to us today. We're seeing that in software development. Um, we are seeing brand new tools and frameworks that are really AI oriented, that are driving new business models when it comes to how organizations are thinking about technology. Something as simple as, you use Word as an example. Well, now Microsoft is embedding Copilot, their AI platform, directly into Word, into Excel, into Outlook, into PowerPoint. A friend of mine, we were talking, this was about a year ago, and he said, "Boy, you know what? I spent a career being really great at using Excel, and now anybody can have the same skills I had at their fingertips in Excel." So I think what this does mean is that the playing field is going to change for many folks, for many people who had existing roles. They're going to have to add new tools to their toolkit, to their arsenal, to be able to be as valuable, or in fact more valuable, for the world around us, or the world ahead. I think it's easy to be scared in these types of moments of change as well, because change is hard for many folks. But I also think that when properly harnessed, that change can create real value, not only for organizations here in Canada, but certainly for the Canadian economy as a whole. I mean, when we think about productivity of Canadian organizations, we do need to lean into being faster, better, stronger, and hopefully AI and enabling our workforce using AI is going to be part of that solution.
Yeah, well, hopefully, companies like yours can make AI agents better, because right now they're awful. I've never had a problem solved by an AI agent. When I have to call up my bank or the telephone company or whatever, you always start off talking to one of these machines. And I always end up having to talk to an agent to solve my problem, because if my problem was that easily solved, I would have just solved it online. I would have just changed my address online or whatever. So,
Done it yourself.
yeah. So, what do you think about AI agents? And are how long is it going to take before they actually become truly useful and start replacing human beings? Because right now, I think a lot of people think, well, I can automate some of these things. Maybe the simplest of tasks you can automate with an AI agent, but right now they seem to be pretty limited. What is your take on AI agents and how revolutionary is that, and how long will it take for the revolution to occur?
Sure. I think, again, great question, because I think this may speak to the nature of how change is happening. Let's rewind the clock 24 months, to, well, maybe a little bit more, 30 months to the beginning of 2023, and OpenAI and ChatGPT start exploding. Right, everybody is going wild about this new AI tool in terms of generative AI and access to an LLM directly, and they start playing with it. At that point, and over these years and months, we've seen those tools explode, not only in popularity but also in functionality. Right, we've seen in the past couple of years many of the models simply accelerate in terms of their usefulness. Now, if we're thinking about agentic AI as a theme of 2025, especially going into 2026, I agree with you. I mean, I think many of the agent-based approaches that most business leaders are putting into play are probably less than ideal, and people are probably still better at those tasks. Um, but I think over time, and we're not talking about years, we're talking about months, we're going to see the efficacy of these tools improve dramatically. And so I don't think it's a matter of, are we building agents right now, or are we leveraging agentic AI today to be in production? I think now is the time that leaders in business should be experimenting with AI, and perhaps assume that all of these experiments aren't going to be perfect right off the bat. But 12 months from now, I guarantee we're going to see more utilization of these tools in organizations in order to be competitive. We're seeing the term kind of digital labor, or digital employees, begin to take root, and I think many organizations are going to be thinking quite cleverly about the nature of digital labor in their organization. Firms who are really leveraging this type of competency are going to merge digital labor and traditional labor in a way that creates much more value, and that comes back to having people who are upskilled and knowledgeable about AI doing traditional roles and working towards those future roles. This is why I think fear is perhaps our maybe first emotion, but I think there's actually lots of room to be excited, to be almost find opportunity in the fact that digital labor is becoming a little bit more commonplace. Now, that being said, I've built an organization based on local talent. I think people are essential to the work that we do. But I don't know if people are going to be essential to write the code that we do over the coming years and months. I think agents will form an important part of the labor that we deliver for our clients, and that's one of the ways that we can be more competitive to lower cost ecosystems. As I mentioned, we've got staff here in Canada. We're exclusively Canadian based. All of our staff are resident here in Canada, and so we don't have a nearshore or an offshore model leveraging talent in, let's say Southeast Asia or Latin America, to be able to drive down our costs. For us, the way that we're going to leverage digital talent is the way that we're going to be continue to be competitive with some of those lower cost markets, while still retaining that Canadian talent base going into the future.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, the customers that I've seen of my own, I should say, clients that have overseas offices, it's actually not because they're trying to avoid hiring people in Canada and save money. It's because they're doing business in those countries. It's like they have to have an office over there, and maybe that's just the ones I have. But let's get back to what you're talking about with AI and human resources and tech talent. So so far, has AI replaced anybody at your firm? Because I've heard that debugging is one thing that is pretty much being taken over by AI. Do you agree with that?
I mean, we haven't replaced anybody, but we have certainly augmented the competency of people in our organization by using AI. That's a perfect example, right? So making sure that the quality, call it from like a quality control perspective, the code that we're writing fits expected parameters, that it's following processes and practices that are firmly guided by our architects in our organization, so that we're not deploying anything that is incorrect or potentially introduces a problem into a system. So yes, absolutely. I think we're seeing tasks that perhaps people weren't as great at being taken over by AI to be able to improve quality within the processes that we work. Um, Now, I think we've seen in many larger organizations, right? There's been lots of documented layoffs over the past couple of years in big tech, right? Looking at Salesforce to Microsoft in terms of folks being laid off, and whether or not that's due to the advent of AI and the efficacy of AI, I can't necessarily speak to that, but certainly technology organizations are starting to leverage these tools to be able to increase the volume of their outputs. And I would suspect that along with that efficiency comes with perhaps some roles become redundant or not as useful anymore. In our organization, though, it we are small and scaling, and so because we're scaling, because we're spending the time to grow, we actually are always short a little bit of staff. And we're always trying to grow into the shape of the future, which means AI is actually helping us get there in a more sustainable way, and certainly in a way that's going to drive better value for the folks that we care about, in particular our clients and our employees.
Mhm. So one person can get more work done, and that will drive down costs because productivity's gone up. It just makes you more competitive. So that's interesting. The Now you're located in Edmonton, and I was interestingly for some people, well, maybe nobody cares. I was born in Edmonton, and yeah, both my parents graduated from the University of Alberta. If you were advising the University of Alberta's software engineering computer science department. And, universities take a long time to change and to catch up sometimes with these kind of tectonic shifts. What would you be telling them? Like, what does the computer science student who's going to graduate 2 or 3 years from now, what do they need to do differently, if anything?
Well, I think that's a wonderful question. So, and I think if we were answering that question at a university versus like a more technical institute, probably the answers would be a little bit different, but probably related. I will take a step back though. So, also as a, the U of A is also my alma mater. I would be remiss if I didn't call out the Amy, the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute here in Alberta, connected to the U of A. We have some of the most incredible talent when it comes to AI. Um, and even in the software development space, it's not for lack of people or lack of talent. And I think there's probably a combination of factors that are required to be able to build a better ecosystem. But if we were providing advice to an institution, I think it's the nature of how quickly technologies are changing right now, and why universities are actually really well suited to be able to be ahead of that, is that we have to continuously be pushing the fundamentals. When it comes to the way we build, when it comes to software, for example, the fundamentals don't change. The software languages, they may change. In fact, they will. We've seen lots of changes in software languages over the past 20 years, from you know C# to Java and everything in between. um, some languages have come and gone, database structures have come and gone, technologies have come and gone, but the fundamentals still reign true. And so that's what I would the advice that I would provide to a university would be like, ensure that we continue to push the fundamentals to be able to build really strong talent infrastructure moving forward into the future. I think, looking at the past while, especially here in Canada, we've been really fixated on the word infrastructure, and in this case, data centers. Data centers are important, and we have to build those data centers. We have to have the technology that fits in the data centers. But without enough software engineers or software developers to design, deploy, and run AI systems on top of that infrastructure, the hardware that we're building can't create outcomes. But like, that's paired with the fact that we have world class research when it comes to technology. We spend more than more than most of the planet on research, not just limited to technology, but in many places. But we score so low on commercialization, and so I think here in Canada, applied talent is the bottleneck. So again, back to that advice to universities, I would say yes, absolutely, teaching the fundamentals, and then continuing to reinforce that uh, we need to create opportunities for applied talent to be able to build a stronger talent pipeline long term. And if we compare this to the U.S., at the end of the day, we've got incredible talent. I'm biased, but I would say we have even better talent than the U.S. But we have a smaller pool, and because we're smaller, that means we end up being a little bit less competitive on a global scale when it comes to retaining and keeping that talent here. But we can keep more builders in Canada, creating new opportunities, new infrastructure, new technology, new IP by speeding pathways into more applied roles, by pairing strategic immigration, like in your world, with serious domestic upskilling as driven through our universities, not just the U of A, but certainly every world class institution that exists here across Canada. Um, and I would say, and I don't think this is something that they aren't doing, but continue to expand specialized programs related to AI, related to cloud, related to systems engineering for the modern workforce. Continuing to fund industry embedded capstones, right? Real world experience and real world residencies, so grads can go straight into applied roles. And I mean, I think there's lots of opportunities in terms of pairing universities with again specialized immigration to make sure that we're bringing the best talent in the world here to be able to upskill local Canadians.
Hmm. Interesting. One of the things you mentioned there with applied skills, do you are you talking about that because you see Canadian companies and a lot of good tech ideas come out of Canada, but there seems to be a failure on the execution side, actually, building a product that's durable and works in the real world. Is that something you're touching on there?
Absolutely. I mean, I think so. For a successful innovation and technology ecosystem, we need a combination of things. We need really great ideas, or builders who are really willing to create their ideas here. We need talent to back that up. We need the financial infrastructure to be able to move that forward. And we know that we're a small nation, which means our customers are not going to be local. But we have to create a stronger opportunity to be able to commercialize or execute, as you mentioned, in the local market, so that we can begin to export product, not talent. And that's one thing that I think we are really good at, is we build incredible talent, we build incredible IP, but it does make its way across the border because there's better compensation, more equity, bigger projects, right, in terms of the applied
Lower
approach. And I
taxes.
think to your perspective there, yeah, the lower taxes, sure, and a perception of slower adoption. I think people think that things move faster in other ecosystems, and so we need to change that narrative. We need to speed up applied AI in industry. We need to remove friction around many factors. Taxation is one of them. Around building, around housing, around PR, around credentialing, all the things that get in the way of making sure that we can build here and build better.
Yeah, that sounds great. Um, s- let's talk about scaling for a second, because you've used that word a few times, I think, in our conversation so far. And a lot of my guests who are CEOs and founders of companies who are successfully scaling, they're doing it through partnerships. So they're partnering with a large industry organization, and that's putting them in touch with thousands of their members somehow. Have you tried anything like that? Are you using partnerships to scale your business?
Yeah, I mean, so while um, while we are scaling the business, we're in probably one of the more challenging times of scale. We're moving from founder-led sales, right? Myself and the other partner here at Punchcard growing the business, to more established sales infrastructure. And the way we've built the business today has been largely on referrals and partnerships. Um, you know, I can't be in a million places at once. I haven't invented a time machine yet, so or the way to clone ourselves. So we we have to be relying on really great partnerships to be able to scale and grow our business. But there's a limiting factor there too. I mean, we've established, like I said, good partnerships, but also building a sales infrastructure is part of what we're working on today. Recognizing that good organizations that scale also build a foundation in effective business development, sales, marketing, and growth. So I'd say like we've been really fortunate to have the scale and the relationships that we've had in play to date. But I also recognize that the business that we're building for the future is going to look fundamentally different than it does today. That's kind of the theme of our conversation, I suppose, is that the nature of building in Canada means that we have to be always acknowledging that the organization or the corpus that we're creating is going to have to change in the future. It's going to have to mature. It's going to require new skills, new capabilities, and new relationships to be able to be as effective as possible. Um, Scaling is hard. It's no question around that. Building a business in Canada is difficult. Being a Canadian entrepreneur has barriers, which means it's a lot easier to do it, as you mentioned, with really great partners who are watching your back.
Well, that's fantastic. There's a few things I wanted to go into with you that will, well, I don't know if we'll have time, but maybe you can just quickly touch upon one of them, which is standard field systems. So I was reading about this on your LinkedIn profile. Um, can you tell us about that? So it's a punch card spinoff for the law enforcement industry. I shouldn't call it an industry.
That's
What should
right.
I call it? For
So,
law enforcement, period.
well, I mean,
Yep, although maybe it is
yeah,
an
I mean,
industry.
public safety and law enforcement is absolutely an industry. It's an industry that is woefully behind in digital transformation. Because of the the nature of the industry, it has to be stoic. It has to be fairly static in order to support citizens. Um, but maybe in order to introduce standard field, I'll introduce a little bit of vision around where Punchcard lives. So a number of years ago, we established a 10-year vision as an organization, and part of our ability to scale was going to be rooted in building an IP spinoffs, building purpose-built organizations, focusing on taking some IP and commercializing it properly. We thought that our competency as software developers and product builders, we could leverage that into building really useful, really valuable tools for other industries that wasn't just based in consulting services like our traditional business. And so one of our first spinoffs has been Standard Field Systems. I have the good fortune of also acting as CEO of that business as we move from startup into scale up mode. And what we've done with Standard Field is we've built a digital platform, again, focused on the law enforcement industry, but specifically around recording impairment evidence at the roadside, focusing on what's called the standardized field sobriety test, and a number of other protocols that are used at the roadside to be able to collect evidence, to be able to hopefully put people in jail for impaired driving. And I mean, it's something that is, I think, near and dear to our heart and should be. I'm the father of a almost 3-year-old. Um, I worry about the days when I'm not around. When she's on the road or when she's in the car with her mom. I want our streets to be as safe as possible to keep my family safe. And so, our the platform and the product that we've built that's supported through the development of a patent as well, is actually deployed with law enforcement. Our first deployment was with York Regional Police, just outside Toronto, and we're deploying actively in law enforcement agencies across Canada and throughout the US. It's a really exciting opportunity for me to not only leverage the skills that we've built in terms of creating digital technology, but also to build new skills in commercialization, business development, sales, and marketing as well, to hopefully be successful. We're doing this because, fundamentally, we think that the people that we hire here at Punchcard, they happen to be quite talented. They also happen to be ambitious, and we want to make sure that we're creating opportunities for new roles, like for people to take on the role of head of development or chief information officer, chief technology officer, or even CEO in some of these future businesses. For me, it's a talent pipeline, it's a talent pathway, so that we can hire the best people that we can and make sure that we can retain them into new opportunities.
Hmm. So this is an app for police to use if they don't have a breathalyzer?
Yeah, it's actually used in conjunction with a breathalyzer. Um, Now, there are a number of different steps in an impairment stop. A breathalyzer is generally here in Canada used as the first tool. We've had some changes at the Supreme Court level that have really pushed that. Fundamentally, if you are stopped, there's a limited amount of time for a law enforcement officer to provide a test, and one of those tests can be a breathalyzer. It's kind of the easiest. That's also backed up with what's called the standardized field sobriety test. You've probably seen it on TV. There's three tests that make up the
Mm,
the uh,
touch your
the,
nose,
the
that sort of
standardized field
thing.
sobriety
Mhm.
test, or the SFST. Uh, that's right, walk the line and whatnot. And so we built a digital protocol that works with that to be able to collect the evidence for that, as well as the drug recognition protocol as well that fits alongside that. Because the breathalyzer is really only for alcohol impairment, there's a lot of gap in impairment that's beyond just
Sure.
alcohol, and so the officer at the roadside needs multiple tools to be able to collect data or collect evidence to be able to lay charges if required.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, I think we've come to the end of this episode. Do you have do you have any final words to say to our listeners before we sign off?
I mean, I think we could probably keep on going for another couple hours here, especially as we dive into talent. But I think what I will probably leave on is that as a CEO in the Canadian ecosystem, I'm really centered on kind of one key topic. As we're racing to build AI infrastructure, and as we're racing to build northern infrastructure, and we're racing to build economic infrastructure to be able to be globally competitive, I think we have to be asking ourselves, are we building the right talent? And AI is going to be a part of that story. Um, I think that's where Canada wins or loses certainly the next few years, but certainly the next decade, and certainly the next 50. Um, I think we have to be focusing on the long game from a competitive nature, and the other folks who watch your podcast. I think we're probably all in the same boat. How might we be competitive together?
Hmm.
And I know if people are interested, I'm often talking about this on my LinkedIn, or we post quite a few articles to our website at www.punchcard.io, and I can be found on LinkedIn if you search for Sam Jenkins.
Okay. Well, that sounds fantastic. Well, thank you again for coming on to the show. And for those of you who are watching, if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.